Hi everyone, it's Manda here. Welcome back to Yachting International Radio, and I'm here with a great mate of mine and colleague, Mark from Acute Medical. He's also done lots of training with us. He's a paramedic, but more excitingly, he's been a paramedic for the America's Cup, for the Grand Prix series, and all sorts of really cool high performance sailing. But Mark, you should introduce yourself. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Amanda. My name's Mark Weatherhead. I'm a paramedic here in the UK and works with Tomo, which one of the doctors that you've interviewed, and Spike as well for MSOS, for whom I do training, MCA training, and lots of other bits and pieces that they give me to do. Tomo also is the medical director for Acute Medical. So I work very closely with Tomo as well on various projects. Sail GP being one, the latest, America's Cup. He and I went out and worked with the America's Cup team on the last round of America's Cup regattas, and we had a fantastic time. A really good time. Yeah. Brilliant.
And so that's how you got into the sailing part of marine medicine, was just being associated with Tomo?
With Tomo initially. Getting into the teaching and the sailing part of that was through him. I've sailed for years. I started sailing at the age of 5. And since 1991, I've been in the RNLI. I've been crew member, I've been paramedic, I've been coxswain, I've been helmsman, and now I'm a launch authority. So done all sorts of things with search and rescue and things like that. Which is how I think the America's Cup stuff came across, came along, because of the experience with search and rescue and being able to do things like that, and managing and handling boats as well, as well as the paramedic skills. I got sort of roped into it initially by Tomo, and absolutely loved it, still do.
That's brilliant. So tell us about your role. Do you set up a hospital? Are you out on a boat? How does it all work when you're doing the paramedic support for these regattas?
Right, it gets quite complicated because, as you'll be aware, different countries have different rules and allow different things to happen. So what I do, my role basically is to organise and manage the medical resources in each of the regattas in each of the countries. So whether it's America, whether it's Europe, or it's the UK, whether it's Asia, wherever we're going to, I liaise with the local medical services and set up the systems of work that they're going to operate with us out on the water. I'm then the medical coordinator out on the water. So although I'm a paramedic, I can do certain things. I've got paramedics, doctors from these countries that go out, and I will allocate them a boat, and they will follow the regattas around when they're racing and training and all that sort of stuff. And then I will direct the resources into an incident. And then I just oversee what's going on and write reports about how it's happened and what's happened and this, that, and the other. So it's an interesting thing. It's really interesting seeing how other people work.
Yeah, that's pretty cool with the logistics, and it must be amazing comparing, the different countries as well. Has there been any, in terms of like the resources in the different countries? I think that's something that all of us yachties that go racing around the world or cruising don't always think about. You kind of just expect that every country has a hospital and the services there, and I've certainly found that some of the hospitals don't exist, that we find on the websites. So, yeah, has anything been extraordinary or unusual that you've come across?
Well, in Australia, the Dutch team, they had an accident on board, and I know it's been put on Facebook. So Martin won't mind me telling you, he slipped across the deck and actually fractured his scapula. Which was quite painful. And the logistics of getting him off of the boat and then getting him to a point of recovery where we could have an ambulance meet us was quite challenging, because where we actually set up the tech base is quite a long way away from the race ground. So we had to set up strategic points around the course. And then it's just a 911 or 999 or whatever it is for the country, 112, I think it was.
000 in Australia.
So wherever we are. It's giving the information to the race control so that they can then get the resources that we need. And they want a handover before they send anything. They want to know exactly what we've done, what we've given, what sort of injuries we're suspecting, so they can then send the right resource, whether it's urgent, whether it's emergency, whether it's critical, that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's quite an interesting thing, and that happened in Australia, and it worked really, really well.
Can we go back a step? Because you know me pretty well. I like gory details, and if it's okay to talk about it, what I'm really interested in is getting the guy from the sailing boat into the tender. How did you go about that?
Yeah, we did do a transfer. Martin was actually in a lot of pain when we got to him, but the adrenaline was flowing as well. So although he was flat on the deck of the boat of the yacht, we were able to get on board with him, and he actually walked off of the boat, holding onto his arm and his shoulder. It was pretty apparent that he was in a lot of pain. But we had trained for it. Myself and the dive team that we have there, we were doing training with all of the yacht crews on how we were going to get people off in circumstances similar to that. And the way it operated and the way they helped us to expedite people off of boats was really good. We were using scoop stretchers, and utilising harnesses and various other things to get them off. So yeah, it actually worked really well with Martin because he walked, but with others we had trained so that we could get them off using equipment such as slings, scoops, even block and tackle if we needed to. We could have rigged that up as well.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, and how much training do you do with the guys? Because I guess it's pretty important to all know your roles. Do you mainly train with the dive team, or do you do training with the whole crew?
With the whole crew. They obviously have to have their oxygen training and diver training, so we do all of that. The training with all of the dive teams from all of the chase boats, they have to do with us prior to any of the boats going afloat. So we hold 4 half-day sessions to get everybody through that come in, so that they can join us. We can get in the water with them. We can show them how we want to and expect them to get people out of the water or get them to the tender, to get them out of the water and onto the tender, and how we're going to do that safely without causing or creating any more problems for them. So it's quite intense, but these guys, they are so good at what they do. It's not a hard thing to teach them. They know what they want. They know how they want to be managed and treated and dealt with when they're injured. So very good. It's very good.
Amazing. So what would be the biggest risks that you train for?
Drowning, trapped underwater. You've seen these boats. They pitch pole, they capsize, and there is an awful lot of boat that they can get trapped underneath if they go over. Aside that, you could be knocked out if anything goes over, and that's the biggest thing that we train for, is to get somebody out that's trapped in rigging or whatever. and the divers on each of the chase boats are trained in that. And we had specialist divers on all of the medic boats as well. We have 3 medic boats with specialist cutting equipment and things like that if we need it.
And have you ever had to use it when it's not a drill?
Only on training. Thankfully, I haven't. I know it has happened in the past, and this training really was developed a much deeper aspect to the training was developed following the death a few years ago of one of the sailors, and now there's a lot more emphasis on safety and a lot of emphasis on, okay, how do we get them out if they are trapped? And there's a methodical way that the divers work. I'm really there just to sort of assess with the medical side of it. At the time, their job is the actual rescue part. One's then handed over to me or to whoever is the clinician that's in whichever country we're in on the boat. And then I just oversee what's going on. Yeah.
What was going through your mind when you saw the American boat crash the other day?
All sorts go through your mind. The first thing is, I think you can see that they're excited because they're racing, and then all this goes up. And then from a medical point of view, from a medic and a sailor and a lifeboatman, you know, the things that you're thinking out. You're looking at everybody who's hit their head, who's in the water, who looks as though they're trapped. You know, it's sort of, once you've got through that initial triage, I suppose, of this is what's happening and this is what's happened, you then do an automatic triage in your head of, well, this is the sort of thing that we could be expected to see now. And then you go into stage 2. So if we do see that, what are we going to do? How are we going to deal with it? So you're always trying to think ahead. The medical resources that we dispatch will be dealing with the here and now. My job is then to understand what the here and now is and what's happening, and to make sure that the next stage is starting to fit into place.
Awesome. And what advice would you give to a sailor that's interested in paramedicine? I'm sure you've taken a few people out of yachting and they've gone to study paramedicine. I must admit, I had a beautiful email yesterday from a girl that did my course and then left the race program to follow a medical career. So I'm sure you've got lots of people that want to follow in your footsteps. What advice would you give them?
I've had a few that have left what they were doing to become paramedics and gone into paramedicine because of them either working or coming out and observing me on ambulances or lifeboats and things like that. I always say to them is that if you care about people and you can deal with situations that they can't deal with, you've got the right aptitude to be able to do what I do, you know. And if you have that and you want to use that to help people, then go for it. You know, there's not enough people in this world that want to help others. And if you can do that from a medical perspective, then you're putting something back. And it does make you feel good. And I've got 4 or 5 that are now paramedics that have come through, certainly through the lifeboat side of things with me, and another one came through the sailing world, and yeah, they've all gone on to have really good careers.
Amazing. So what about you? What's next? What's in the near future for
Well,
Mark?
the near future is SailGP. I've been really lucky again to get the contract with SailGP for this series that's starting in April. So I'm really looking forward to that, getting stuck into sort of writing the medical plans and things like that. Waiting to get out to Bermuda to sort of put things in place with that. But also I run my own private ambulance service. I'm a paramedic. I teach. and there's all sorts. We've had a really bad year. Everybody's had a bad year with events and things, and I've been really lucky because I've still been teaching all the way through, because teaching still carried on, other than for a few weeks when we weren't allowed to. So it's developing the business, building that up. I've got staff that are coming in to work on a more permanent basis now because of the amount of work that we've got coming in. And we're looking at all sorts of things, from teaching right the way up through to festivals, sports. We do motor racing as well as sailing, as well as motorcycles, as well as open water swimming. You know, we do all sorts of things, and we're having a great time, and I'm having a great time. Love it.
It's so awesome. Good on you. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. It's great to see you.
And you.
And thanks for being such an inspiration and taking the time to share a bit of your life with us.
No worries. It's really nice to talk to you, Amanda, and it would be great to work with you again sometime soon.
Yeah, I know. We've got to get the dream team back together.
We have. We certainly have, yes. So,
all right. Thanks, everyone. You've been watching Yachting International Radio, Inspirations with Manda, and I'll see you again next Monday. And this was Mark Weatherhead from Acute Medical in the UK. All right, over and out. Thank you very much.